So our thoughts on AI usage in writing is not something that we're shy about discussing, but that's not what we're here for today. So we don't live in a bubble. We're not Luddites. We accept AI. We know it's there. We use it in our personal lives sometimes. We just think it needs to stay out of creative spaces. However, we also recognize that we have a bit of a minority opinion on that. So we're here to ask the question and answer the question, what do authors owe readers in terms of AI disclosure? Whether they used it, whether they didn't, is that necessary? And do readers have the right to ask that of authors? The reason we are bringing this up is that there's a lot of stuff going on Threads right now. There's readers who are asking writers for evidence of their drafting process to prove that they are not using AI, various other forms of proof that they are not using AI. Um, it is worth noting that this is primarily being directed towards smaller authors, authors being published independently, self-publishing, or through smaller presses. Haven't really seen it for anyone that's on, the big five, but it asks the question for those authors using AI, should you disclose it? How much should you disclose? And do readers have the right to even ask that? So we have a variety of opinions here from people who are differently embedded within the writing community. And I want to start with CJ because CJ, you're kind of coming at this more from a reader perspective, and as a developer, you have a different relationship with AI than the rest of us. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, like you said in the intro, um, you said like, oh, we're not gonna talk about the um,
Our feelings on AI are pretty well
yeah,
known.
exactly. Um, I just this is begging authors to not even begging, forcing authors to be like, I'm only gonna read your thing if you prove that you didn't use AI. It's just cancel culture, witch hunt, it's unnecessary, pretty much.
As an author or as a reader, would that impact your decision to read a book if an author disclosed that they used AI in some form?
For me, no. If an author said, I used AI in my book to do, I don't know, to come up with ideas or something, I personally, I wouldn't care that much. I don't. Oh, man, okay. I guess we got to talk about. I guess we got to talk about.
Yeah, choose your
Here we
words
Man,
go.
carefully.
man, I got to talk about how I feel about this now. All right, all right, all right. I just I I basically ranted to Beatrice about this on the way to figuring out what to talk about today on the podcast. I think like my opinion is that uh it's gonna boil down to, and it's gonna sound really bad. It's gonna sound really bad because I don't think many people are gonna agree with this at
We'll
all.
give you a chance to explain.
We're gonna ignore the potential moral problems with stealing work and the expensive part of using water, which by the way, for coming from the tech sphere, it's not consuming. I don't think it's consuming the water. It's a cycle. It comes back. It's not being used for anything else. It's probably dirty already. Anyway, disregarding those things, I believe that like using AI to make something and then posting it as itself self-contained as an AI thing is bad. If somebody comes up to me and tells me I used AI to make this, I don't think that's bad. The reason I don't think that's bad is because I think it's basically akin to one of two things. You use your brain to come up with ideas, or you bounce ideas off of somebody else. Where do you draw the line of this is somebody else's work or this is my work? Once it becomes you have an AI thing, you transform it into something else, it becomes yours with your ideas that you've made. And I think like, you know, I said this in the AI cover art thing about tracing and copying, and it's same kind of art or referencing. I think if you influence the outcome enough, it becomes yours in a transformative way, because I think that's how all art is made. It's all built upon everything else that everybody's already done. So without the context of everything that came before it, the art that we have now wouldn't exist. Um, that's just what I think. So if somebody
So,
says I made this with AI, I don't think it's that bad.
so I'm gonna pose you a quandary, and then I'm gonna go to Yashi because I know she's chomping at the bit here. Um, so if someone says, I wrote this, AI helped me polish this, then I wrote some more, I changed it some more, that's one thing. But what if someone says, I had this entire chapter generated by AI and I did nothing? Does that
No,
change your
that's bad.
perspective?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's bad. That's yeah. You can hear me in the echo. I second myself here. I'm seconding
That's how
myself with
passionate you
that
know
one.
he is. You can hear him in
Exactly.
someone else's screen.
No, that's bad. That's like taking. So I used this very weird example before, but I'm gonna see if I can morph it into something better. Let's say Stephen King wrote something, right? I don't know actually anything really too much about Stephen King besides what Beatrice tells me, because I've never read anything, I don't think. So let's say I take a passage from Stephen King's book and it fits very nicely within my story, right? And I paste it into my thing. You can very clearly verify that that is like from Stephen King, right? And the AI one, you have no idea where it came from. You don't know what it's referencing, where the things come from, right? You don't know what it's grabbing. So if you just keep that there and paste it in, and you're like, yeah, AI wrote this for me, that's bad, because that's almost the same thing. It's not verifiably plagiarism, but it's pretty much just copying. Uh, It's it's too murky to do that. You can't do that.
Okay. So just using AI bad, using AI for ideas and then polishing them and turn them into your own, acceptable to you.
It has to be transformative.
Okay.
It's the same thing with like why you look at like uh I'm gonna use like Dochi's anxiety song and listen to it, and it's like, this is not the same thing as somebody that I used to know, but it's using the same piece, but it's not the same song. It's transformative. You don't go after her because she copied the same beat that these people are using. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like my opinion on this is a little bit unusual, but
That's why you're on
that's
this
just what I
episode.
think. Yeah.
Yashi is the resident AI ethicist. Where do you go with this? Feel free to respond to CJ's thoughts as well.
I, CJ, I'm not going to bash on you, I promise.
It's okay. You can bash on me. I want to be wrong. I don't know. I want to like be told that I'm wrong, but I don't know.
I mean, we're going to naturally disagree because I personally don't think any author should be using AI or generative AI in order to create their stuff, because a lot of it serves as a passageway to letting it do the work for you. Um, But having an author use AI in the sense of, oh yeah, I use Grammarly to help me catch spelling errors, or, you know, pro writing aid just to point out this like grammar error, and that's fine. I'd say that's chill. But people are going to naturally disagree with me too. I actually don't use any like online software to help me write. I use a typewriter. I have it right here. And um
A
and
plus
that
for
has
bringing your
been,
own prop.
yeah, I know. It was like literally on the bed right next to me. No, but like I feel that has changed my writing like immensely. But at the same time, it's like not everyone can afford to use this tool. Not everyone, you know. Anyways, on the topic of using AI to write and readers trying to ask for proof, I feel like that's a highly inappropriate question to ask most authors. Um, one, it's very damaging to an author's reputation to be accused of AI. This is a known fact. It could be used maliciously. So, like, if you don't like an author, you can just be like, oh, I want proof that you don't use AI in your book. And people are going to see that. It circulates on the internet, and people are just going to be like, oh, this author must use AI. That's why these people are asking for it. And it is a frustrating thing to deal with as an author because in that moment you don't know what to do. You're going to desperately try clawing yourself out of that situation and be like, "Oh, I don't use AI. Here's all my proof." And that proof is never going to be enough.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
People,
the bar of or the expectation of proof is always going to move because someone's always going to say it's generated with AI.
exactly. People are going to hate your work regardless of what you do. They're going to try to drag you down regardless of what you want. And you have to understand that as an author, in a sense. Um, readers, I'm not saying that you're awful for doing this. Please never ever take what I'm saying as such. Um, but I'm saying be careful when you do it because if you don't have enough proof to back up your own claims, then you're damaging someone's reputation. If you really want to ask for proof, do it in private, even. Don't do it on like a public forum.
Yeah.
It's a lot that kind of goes into it.
So then from the other perspective of that of an author, say you're an author that does use some form of Gen AI, do you think you should disclose that to your users? Or does it depend on how you're using it, what you're using it for?
Um, if any Gen AI is used, I would personally say disclose it because I mean, even with Pro Writing Aid, even with Grammarly, they do have a Gen AI um like application or part of their application that you can use. Disclose that always. Don't think that because it's in Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid that it's safe from content being stolen. It's not. It's using Chat GPT 4 as its model. So always disclose that. I feel like if you're using like anything Chat GPT related, you should disclose that just to be safe.
Now, is that just for the writing process, or does that extend beyond the writing process? Like if you are using Chat GPT for marketing purposes outside of, creating art or whatever, should you disclose that?
Yeah, because nowadays you see a lot on even threads is that people are standing against others for using AI in marketing.
Hmm.
And it's that level of transparency that people appreciate, so they're not left guessing. It saves their time and it saves your time too. Like, you don't have to hear like, "Oh, I'm unfollowing you because you use AI." And if it's baseless, then it's bothersome. But if it's not baseless and you know you use AI, just, you know.
So let me, then Beatrice, I know I'm letting you stew for a while here, but let me ask one other question. So let's say you are doing your own paid advertising. Um, what if you download all that information, feed it into Chat GPT or something like that to look for trends? Or let's say hypothetically you are advertising on, I think it's Meta is planning to move to a system where AI creates your ads, AI runs your ads. Like you essentially have no input whatever. And
Yeah.
Google is moving in that direction as well. Do you need to disclose that, or how do you handle that?
When it's not of your own choosing, like in Meta and Google in Google's case, you can't disclose that. Um, that's going to be in the future safe to assume that AI did that.
Hmm.
Um, it's gonna become a norm, and that's when you're like, no, don't disclose that.
Well,
Using,
let me ask you this though. You say it's going to be the norm, but how many people know that information? Like, from your face, I think
That's
you
true.
didn't know that. I know it because I subscribe to 10 marketing newsletters
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
get them
you
every
tell
day.
me.
Yeah.
You usually tell me. Um, no, I knew about Meta, I didn't know about Google.
Yeah, they're all moving that
Um,
direction.
yeah, I feel like it's safe to assume once Meta says something.
Hmm.
No, I feel like it's not going to be normal right now because people aren't going to know. Obviously, I
Hmm.
didn't know about the Google one. Um, but in the future, when they do know, you don't have to disclose it. But for now, saying like, by the way, Meta and Google are using my stuff and they're using AI to create the ads, that's okay. That's safe disclosure. That's
Okay.
transparency. I'm here for transparency. I feel like that's something that needs to be said. Like anytime I talk to you guys about AI, it's always let's be transparent
Hmm.
as we can be. Oh my God, I can't. It's English.
So, and no, you're good. You're good. And then I just want to make sure I got this. You said even using Grammarly, you think it should be disclosed.
Only if it's the Gen AI aspect.
Oh,
Because
okay. Okay. So just having it
you know
correct
the
your gram.
rephrase?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I hate
Yeah,
that.
the
Can you turn that
rephrase?
off? Can someone tell me to turn that off? I hate it.
No.
Stop taking
No,
my
I don't
voice
think
from me.
I don't think
Just
you
tell me when
could.
I'm missing commas.
Yeah, like if you're using the rephrase, I forgot what it was called. Uh, you need to disclose that.
Okay.
If you're not, then don't.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a paid feature anyway. So most people, I think it does it like twice a day, and it's like, oh, you got to pay for this. I'm like, cool, just go away. Then I won't pay for it. But just tell me where my comma is missing, or if I missed like a capitalization or something. But
Before the Gen AI features came out for Pro Writing Aid, I have the lifetime subscription
mm,
and I've stared at it so long, like morally, I don't agree with this and I'm really sad.
yeah,
But anyways, typewriter, great
yeah,
investment.
yeah. I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to turn off all like the Gemini predictive text because like it starts like giving me a word. I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted, and now I've lost my train of thought. Son of a bitch. Um.
Yeah.
So, all right, Beatrice, you've
Oh
been
no.
very nice and quiet. Would you like to unleash?
I
Oh no.
I would
Yeah,
like
CJ, mute.
Why are
Yeah.
you saying no no?
I'm so scared. I'm so scared I killed myself socially with what I said. And I'm like
Uh
Good news. Well,
I
sad news, CJ.
wanna
You two are now broken up.
It's official. You're moving
No.
out.
I'm sorry.
I do want to bring a different topic to the conversation because we have already talked about AI extensively. And I will talk about the notion that people nowadays seem that the people that they literally do not fucking know on the internet and they develop parasocial relationships with owe them anything at all. Because I think that is something that need to be spoken about in general as our society. This happens with authors, this happens with celebrities. Look at the things that Chaperone has to deal with, like super ultra maximum celebrity that, well, maybe not as big as others, but like that people every day constantly attack her because she owes them something particularly. That happens with as long as anyone is a public figure people for some reason nowadays because of how connected we are, not for some reason, because of social media, because of people sharing parts of their lives online and others just assume that they have ownership over them, honestly, and they are owed stuff. They want to force them to speak about any single topic that they deem important, even if the person is not necessarily like knowledgeable or qualified to speak about the subject, for example. And that I think is the thing that is affecting authors nowadays and the whole AI usage situation and all of that. And I feel like it's particularly damaging in the independent author sphere because it's what you said. Like, I don't see that happening with the big five because we, as indie authors, that we are trying to connect with our readers in a more personal way because that's kind of the point of being an indie author, at least one of them. People start developing the whole idea that we owe stuff. And that could be very damaging, not only with AI, but I can put examples from my personal life that I have very, very close friends that I have seen their health deteriorate because people, their readers, the people that the same way that they support them and they buy their stuff and everything, they almost bully them into sickness because they believe they are owed something. I have seen people getting hospitalized. I have seen people getting heart attacks. I have seen people getting stomach ulcers because, for example, they are writing on a genre that is new to them and their readers attack them and get upset because how could you hurt me this bad? That you're not writing in the genre that we, the people that put you there, have supported you for all of this time, or because they were working in a work in progress and they decided to start a new novel and they were very excited about the whip and for whatever reason the author shelved it for the moment. That is the kind of reaction that I have been seeing, like extrapolated to the AI usage situation of like, oh, you owe me, show me your entire process and all your drafts and all of the things and all your editors' comments and everything, just so I can be satisfied because I don't want to trust you anymore, because I can't trust you anymore. And I think that is a very big problem. And like, at the end of the day, I think that the only thing that authors owe readers and anyone else in the community is the same way that any other person in the community owes anyone, which is basic human decency, respect, treating people right. But like, people really have to stop trying to police everyone that they feel close to over stuff. It's it's just so wrong, and it's something that only affects the people that are not hyper famous. Realistically, if a very, very, very famous author was accused of using AI, no matter if the people that accuse them decide not to support them, the author will still be a famous author because that is how cancel culture works. And that's what CJ was talking about a little bit when he mentioned cancel culture. We see the very extremely famous celebrities getting canceled, but they still have a career. But if there's someone, let's say a small YouTuber or like an independent like musician, just because I want to make sure people understand that this is not only a problem that is affecting authors, but a lot of creative people in general, and a lot of other people in general, but like creative, like our vibe, their careers would be at risk because they depend more on the support of the people. And a lot of these accusations that I have seen about using AI are very baseless. It's like what Jashi said. Some people can weaponize it. Some people can just repeat stuff because they don't know better, but they don't care to know any better. A few weeks ago, there was the whole craze of like using M dashes means AI, which is obviously not true, but people kept repeating it up to the point that other people were believing that. I am part of a lot of subreddits in regards of writing, and I see almost every single day in my notifications. It's not even that I look for them. Like someone said, "Oh fuck, I got accused of AI on like the Goodreads for my book, for example." And then I got so many reviews that were 1 stars saying, "I'm not gonna read it because it's AI." And it was because someone else said it in their reviews that it was AI, and then the reasoning was because there was an M dash. And that can be like a career damaging, like perpetually for that in the author that maybe published their own debut novel. Or I have also seen people saying, oh yeah, this is AI because it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, I am sorry, I am learning how to write still. It happens with art too. It's AI because the hand looks awful. Okay, I am still learning how to draw. I am sorry, I'm not a super professional yet. But it's just so infuriating because it's affecting real life people regardless if they use the AI or not. You shouldn't be like damaging people's entire lives. I understand if you want to take a personal decision. I'm not sure. I don't feel comfortable consuming this type of content. I don't want to support this person. Go ahead. You have free will, but don't we have to stop trying to ruin people's lives. The world is already ruined as we are, and we have plenty of people with more power than us, unfortunately, ruining everyone's lives as we speak. Why are we going to take it against one specific person in which their harm is alleged?
Also, I would like to point out that at least in terms of the readers demanding it, these are people who paid like $12.99 for a paperback and think they are entitled to everything
Exactly.
an author put into that just to prove that they're justified in buying that. And
And a
the
lot
author
of
sees
these
like
are not even
$5.
doing that.
Hmm.
A lot of these are people that haven't even consumed the books of the author yet. A lot of these are people that their only payment, their only support has been following them on social media. Because a lot of this discourse that I see is, oh, now I'm not going to buy your book because of someone has said X, Y, Z. So you're saying that you didn't even take the time to actually get to know if you would like the book or if you like the author. You're just creating this idea in your head because someone else said so, and then you feel like you own something because you follow them on social media. Like it's Black Mirror.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question here. So there's a report that came out, and we'll link it down below, from BookBub about how authors are thinking about AI. And there's about was it 2,000 authors? Where to go? 1,200 authors, excuse me, and their thoughts on AI. And this says about half use it in some aspects and half don't. And one of the things that they kind of get down to about a little bit more than halfway through is they see others see failing to adapt as the biggest risk. And there are so many people that say AI is inevitable in all industries, which feel like of all industries, writing and creative is probably the one that needs it the least. But what happens when those big publishing companies start leaning into AI and they fire all the editors and they fire all the publishers because they can do everything through AI? What happens when we get to that point? Like, what happens to authors? Will everyone lean into self-publishing? Like, this is kind of a doomsday scenario type thing for most people, but I, I, I I think it is inevitable. I think eventually the big publishing houses are going to lean into it. Like, I think it was Tor and Penguin were holding off, but I think they all give in at some point.
I have from a source that I will not say because I don't want to get the source in trouble, but it was publicly said that, as a matter of fact, there are meetings that are conducted in within certain people from certain parts of the industry, kind of like trying to see how to approach the AI thing in a way to adopt AI already. Again, this is I'm not going to point fingers or anything. It's just something that was said publicly about someone that belongs to the industry, and I do agree with it, like being inevitable, unfortunately, because it's like the flashy new thing. I do believe that probably the future of it is self-publishing. We have seen already authors going back to self-publishing or indie publishing for many other reasons in which they don't like the way that certain other things are happening in the industry. So I think the natural course of events is going to be that. I see the writing industry as maybe 10, 20 years ago. I'm too old. I don't remember when like YouTube actually started being a thing. Maybe the
Ow.
entertainment or field industry was. It's shocks. I feel like people that were born after 2000 shouldn't be legal adults, but
Hmm.
whatever. Weird. Yeah, I'm talking about you too, guys. So anyway, I feel too old. It kind of like YouTube or like like YouTube like affected the entertainment industry, or like photography, like Instagram affected the photography industry. Like there is going to probably be an avenue that is more recognized with self-publishing within the writing industry because of more people choosing to take things into their own hands instead of following the very specific path that has been set for all of these
So
years, and that is self-publishing.
let me throw you another curveball in this hypothetical doomsday situation, because it is now so much easier to edit and publish a book, because we'll just pick one at random. Um, we'll just say Tor, because Tor is the one that I mentioned before. They've fired all their editors, they've fired all their publishing people, they've fired all um their graphic designs, whatever. Everything is now AI. It can be done in a matter of minutes, hours, whatever. Everything from cover design to editing to, book layout. The cost goes from, we'll just use a nice round number of $1,000 per book to like $200 a book, the time goes from 6 months to a week. They can suddenly publish 10 times as many books for significantly cheaper. So they are snatching up all the authors that would normally go independent or would normally self-publish. I think if this happens, you start to see all the small publishers shut down because are you going to go to, Yashi's Quality Assurance Publishing, or are you going to go to Simon and Schuster? And I think it will have an absolute ripple effect and will largely kill the publishing industry because no one else will be able to keep up. Like the allure will be too great. The potential reward will be too great.
I feel like, yeah, you have a point. I feel like things are going to change very drastically. That is definitely the most like obvious scenario. I don't know what other scenario could happen. I do agree that we are living in like a very pivotal moment for the industry specifically. Things are never going to be able to go back the way that they were 20 years ago. And it's just
Mm-mm.
a reality. And for a lot of people, it's unfortunate. For a lot of people, it's more fortunate, especially the people that are firing other people just to get more profit. That is extremely fortunate for them. And it's kind of like, it's it's pretty much the same reference that I was using when I was talking to C early about like all of this situation that it's like capitalism
Mm-hmm.
because it only affects the people that don't have huge amounts of money and power. It affects the indie publishers, it affects the indie authors, it affects the people that are starting. And one thing for sure that I believe it's going to happen even more is that the market is going to become way more overcrowded than it already is. And I think the only silver lining that I see with the market being that overcrowded is that extremely niche books are going to have a very big boom. We have seen in market trends uh already that like body horror, like specifically mm, paranormal is like getting like a resurging body horror in general is getting a huge resurgence. Dark academia with supernatural beings other than vampires are getting a resurgence. Like all of these things that are so niche that are the only parts of the market that are not overcrowded by either people trying to push out 80,000 books a year from like AI companies, by the big five, by authors that are trying to do a million books with AI as well, people that have been gotten by bigger publishing houses for profit, therefore they are writing the most commercial stuff. Like the only things that are left are the very, very small niche things that are not commercial enough at the moment. And I see those authors that write very niche things being the ones that will be able to still kind of like keep afloat a little bit more because of the lack of those on the big I want money, I want all of this kind of like situation that is going on this bigger side.
So here's a little bit of a side question. I think this might be more up Yashi's alley than anyone else. What happens when someone writes an AI book and it gets ripped off by someone using AI to write another AI book? Who wins that lawsuit?
We'll love to see that.
Oh my God.
We'll love to see that.
Um, oh no. That's something I actually don't know. 'Cause
Yeah, I was thinking about that because like you can't technically copyright something that AI created.
Well,
okay, wait. So the US has been trying to work on a law recently, or was it a law? I don't remember. That says you could copyright AI generated content. In that situation, if that ever passes, I'm pretty sure the first person who created this AI generated book would win that lawsuit, but
Hmm.
right now I don't think anyone would win. That's AI
an,
generated, it's gone.
an interesting view that is very different from all of our views that I saw recently at an event that I was in was that there was someone, it was a publishing event. So there were very different people from different walks of life. And there was someone very specifically being very pro doing absolutely everything with AI to the point that he calls himself like a person that will defy death thanks to AI and live eternally, which that's a whole other conversation, but this is how extremely different the view of him is, like that of the views that we have. Someone asked him the question. He wrote a book and he's also a journalist, in which he said in his presentation, he writes all of his articles with AI, as long as it's allowed. There are some newspapers that say that you can't write more than 30% or 50% with AI. So he only does like the maximum allowed, but some of them don't. And he just does all of his writing for, like, again, news sources, for blog posts, for his books that he publishes. All of that he does with AI. And again, it was a whole event about publishing. So a lot of the things were like, hey, you guys remember, even if you try to use AI, you can't copyright anything as of right now. So you wouldn't really own the thing that you wrote. So you have to be very careful. We'd recommend you to step aside from like using Gen AI, all of that. Someone posed a question to him. Hey, you're talking about the book that you published. You're talking about the other three books that you had already, all of your articles and everything. You are a famous person. This is like a very big, important, like, person here, like in the US, I guess, had never heard about him. And they asked him, like, what would you say about your rights? Aren't you concerned that you don't own the rights of all of these things that you have supposedly created? Because he said that since the prompt came from his mind, he created it. And he said, I don't care. It's out there. I believe that there are more people like him. There are more people that legit do not care, knowing that they don't have the rights to the things that they created and are so proud of, that they don't care that someone else would rip them off. Because the intention in when they are in which with which they are creating the things are not the same creative intentions that we do because we're passionate about writing. This person's intention was to push 5, 6 books out of there, become famous out of it, going to events, going to talks, and use them as a marketing tool. And I do believe that if someone creates something entirely with AI, they're probably their rights is not going to be their main priority, at least not a lot of them. So I don't even think that the lawsuit would exist in the first place.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's once someone realizes they can't get money off of it or someone else is making money off of it where they could be, I think that lawsuit will exist.
I mean, I feel like they would just use it for cloud, I
Mm.
guess. Like if
That's
the
what I was
whole
gonna say. That's
situation
what that
is
guy's doing
money
it
and
for.
fame, why don't just write another AI book about how this person plagiarized you and become more famous, right? Like there's a lot of money that's to be spent in lawsuits. Then and this seems like it's gray and murky enough that they probably wouldn't even bother sparing that because they could just try to pump out more stuff. Like we have to remember, not everyone's like a good actor, and not everyone has the same moral values as we do, and that is unfortunate, but it's the reality that we live in. And a lot clearly, because we have the position that we have about AI because of our moral values, it is safe to assume that if someone has a very extreme position that is in the extreme opposite, that the one that we have very different moral values as we do.
I mean, not necessarily. They might just
Not necessarily. It's
perceive things differently. Like
yes.
we can't
It's
necessarily say that everyone that uses AI is a
no, no, no,
bad
no, no.
person.
It's
Just
it is safe
clarifying
to
for anyone who is getting
assume.
ready to comment.
Okay. Okay, no, 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 no. It is safe to assume that if someone has an extremely different opinion to mine, they probably could have other extremely different opinions in regards of other things. Like it is safe to assume that that could exist. It is a Venn diagram, it's not a circle. I can have a big extreme opinion against someone that like thinks the same thing about some particular thing like me, but we are humans are very different people from individually from each other. So there are people out there that because of logically the train of thought that goes to creating versus not creating or using Gen AI or all of that could potentially get to the train of thought of I don't really care about who owns the copyright of anything because I particularly am more cared over using this as a marketing tool, which is their opinion and is the way that they view the world. That is a possibility. And I say pretty high possibility. I don't like generalizing. I don't like absolutes, but it could exist.
Hmm. I mean, I just worry that at a certain point, if everyone starts using AI and we continue to push out books at such a rapid pace, we're going to flood the market. I think Yashi maybe touched on this. We're just going to flood the market with stuff. Some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be bad. Some of the really good stuff's going to get lost at a certain point. There's just going to be too many books for anyone to find. And I think that is actually what will start, I guess, slowing the curve or the wave or whatever you want to call it, is when people realize they can't make money out of it anymore.
Yeah. And I think isn't that what happened with YouTube again? Like
Yeah.
with independent filmmaking, that people started or independent entertainment, people started just like pumping shit out on YouTube, and some of it was good, some of it wasn't that good. Some people got famous out of it. Some people are very, very good, but they was already super fluted and they were never discovered. That happened with the music industry too. Justin Bieber was found out on YouTube, for example, I'm pretty sure. And right now we're at the point that everything is so oversaturated. Even if there's great content out there in any of these platforms, because it can be YouTube, it can be TikTok, it can be SoundCloud, it can be all of this that we already have very oversaturated markets. It's become harder and harder and harder for the people to make a name for themselves. And I've seen a lot of stories of people that had to unfortunately like quit filmmaking or like use it as a job hobby instead of their career or quit singing or like all of those things because of the reality of the world that we live in. And I do think that that's what's going to happen with writing. Unfortunately, people are still going to push through, but not everyone. And I think it is very logical that unfortunately some authors that probably are great will say, this is too much for me to handle. I will step aside. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality.
Very much so. All
I don't
right.
think there's anything to avoid it, really.
No, it is most likely, unfortunately, inevitable that AI will get further and further into the creative spaces, and instead of being used for things that benefit humanity. An AI written book not going to benefit humanity. AI figuring out how to solve cancer. That could be useful.
I would
If
one
only they were
be really
trained
happy about it.
correctly.
If only, yeah, don't get me
Yeah.
started. Just oh. uh Part of
Uh,
my stress dealing with AI not being trained correctly.
yeah. All right. Well, any last thoughts?
I don't know, man. You guys talked about everything. I was
You were
just
just
here.
vibing for a while there.
There was, you guys hit like every point I wanted to talk about. There was nothing else to say.
I'm sorry I
Gotta
stole
be
your
faster.
points from
No,
our
you're good.
earlier
You're good.
conversation.
No, I ended up just saying like, oh, transformative, and that was it.
Sorry, it was a good intro. It was a good intro.
I had many thoughts on everything you guys were saying, but too many to fit in these last couple minutes. I
I
did want
think
to say one last thing before I'm circling all the way back
Go for it.
to the beginning of something that Yashi said. Yashi, I think you're very right about it was using AI and then repeatedly using AI over and over again ends up being like a crutch. I think you said some form of that. You end up just using it more and more and more and more and more and then slipping, and that's why we have so many people being like, oh, they left their prompt in the thing, because they just didn't double check and they're like, the AI is going to sort it out. It's that wasn't I wasn't trying to be like, oh yeah, you can use AI for everything. I was more so like, micro dosing AI is not bad is what I was trying to say. Anyway,
So I think
I
there's a good
hope that's
thread that
enough.
I found earlier today on that from S.H. Cooper. Says usually I'm pretty against telling folks they're not writers, but if you can't even form something as basic as the single-celled organism known as an idea without running to the nearest TheftBot 6000 to ask it to come up with dogs, but they can talk, you're not a writer, and I'm not sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's way better. And then what Beatrice was saying about cancel culture, it affects everything. You don't owe anybody much. It's unreasonable. There's too many different avenues, and then just accusing people is going to ruin everybody's life. That's, I don't know. I had to say at least one thing about everything. Man, that was a lot.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to say maybe if you wrote your entire book with AI, please disclose if maybe used it to correct some grammar, you might be a little bit safer. Um, but yeah, if you have to have Chat GPT or whatever do everything for you, you should reconsider.
Yeah.
But
I feel like
Develop some
Yeah.
critical thinking, my dude.
Yeah.
I feel like it all boils down to just being transparent as a writer. Like, you don't have to show people like, oh, this is how I write. Like, if someone accuses me of AI, I'm like, yeah, cool story, bro. I have done that, and don't do that. But no, I feel like if you're going to say like, no, I don't use AI, just be transparent in what you do use. Like sometimes I just post like, oh, this is the way I write. I use a typewriter. This is the programs I use to share it with everyone, like Google Doc or websites, and this is how I track my words, blah blah blah. Transparency. Good.
I mean, honestly, you shouldn't even have to do that. Like,
Yeah, you really shouldn't. But I guess
People you don't know on the internet don't owe you shit.
mhm.
Get
yeah,
it
for
in your
real.
brain.
I agree.
Thing. Be is out here.
It I've seen that I care about having their lives affected by it.
I've seen
And
people I
that's
parasocially care about.
I I don't know, like once it starts getting to the point that it's affecting someone's health and livelihood, that it's giving them actual PTSD, that it's to get them hospitalized. Like you don't really know what you like witch hunting someone over the internet, especially over baseless accusations, is going to do to the person. And again, the world is too bad out there. Why are we contributed to the badness of it?
That's true.
Yeah.
World sucks enough. Don't make it suck anymore.
Exactly.
All right. Well, on that note, publishers behaving badly. It's not you, it's them.